Good. Okay. Good evening. It's December 15th, and this is a 2022, and this is a meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee. Last one of this this calendar year. So we'll get started by introducing ourselves. First, we'll do the people in the room, and then we'll do the people outside the room. Dennis Pugliese, Director of Facilities.
Steve Morton, parent and PTA Woodland Middle High School.
David Warner, Board Member, Committee Chair.
Chris Allen, Board Member, parent of two.
And let's see, from my point of view, if I look at the gallery view, the first person in the upper left-hand corner is Fred.
Fred Seba from BBS Architects and Engineers.
Then Elizabeth.
Zachary Baker, BOCES Tech Support.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Sandona, assistant for Dennis Pugliese.
Katie.
Amy Ashley Moore,
Ms. McGee?
District Treasurer. Oh,
Hi, Katie McGee, parent of an 8th grader.
Walter.
Walter Simon, longtime community member and member of the town planning board.
Julie.
Julia Long, board member and mom of a RJ Bailey student.
Jessica.
Good evening, parent of two and Highview PTA board member.
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah Lazari, parent of a Highview student and ECP student.
Amy.
good evening, Amy Ashley Moore, District Treasurer.
Ashley.
Good evening, Ashley Pineda, board trustee and parent of two.
Megan.
Hello, Megan Hack, parent of kindergartner and a second grader.
Dave.
Hi, Dave Rizal, parent of two in the district.
Very good. Anyone I left out? Got new people are just coming in. All right, we'll wait just a second. Hi. Okay. And Gabriella is coming in. And Gabriella, can you hear us? You are muted. All right, we'll kind of move on and let her work her way in. All right, so the first order of business is to get the housekeeping out of the way. So we want to take a look at the minutes of the previous meeting, and that's one of the many documents in the FinFac directory. And it's a PDF, so it's one of the red ones. Notes, it's called notes. Okay. So the minutes from last month's meeting, November 17th. Attendees were David Warner, Dennis Pugliese, Chris Fallon, Lisa Raymond, Carol Allen, Faisal Siddiqui, James Wadig, Steve Morton, Fred Seba, Jessica Muldoon, Zachary Baker, Katie McGee, Tracy Mears, Julia Long, Elizabeth Sindona, Michael Messina, Gabriella Barahona, Megan Hack, Christopher Macaluso, and Dr. Linda Iverson. I think everybody spelled right. Let's see. Anybody seen anything left out there? Okay.
David, you're just missing the doctor for Macaluso.
Okay. Dr. Macaluso. Okay, anything else? Okay, good. All right, so last time we talked about the energy performance contract. Generally, you can start to scroll down, just take a look and see if there's anything major that was missing. I believe there's if you scroll onto the second page there, we had the draft of the actual language for the vote that we'll have coming up on the 17th. Then we had various pieces where we talked about how what the financial arrangements would be and how it comes to be that there is no cost to the district taxpayer and what the arrangements are for reimbursement from Con Edison if that becomes necessary, if the savings realized aren't what they're supposed to be. Then we went briefly over the finance information. That's item 4 there, the American Rescue Plan. We talked about what was going on with the audit committee. Michael Owens and Gabrielle Barahona being on the audit committee this year as community members. We then proceeded on to the facilities fund updates. I think the most outstanding things there, well, for me, is that New York State Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins met with Dr. Iverson and indicated that she'd be willing to give us $500,000 for the track, and that's been since confirmed. So that's the biggest news there. Then we talked a little bit about the 5-year facilities plan. And then we talked about Woodlands tennis court aid. We have a little more information on that tonight. Thank you, Gabriella, for your efforts in getting the U.S. Tennis Association to become interested in giving us a donation to refurbish our tennis courts. It will be partial funding, but every little bit helps. Then we went over the Metropolis Country Club project in some depth and detail, and we have a little bit more information on that tonight. All the business with the town going back and forth, and the public hearings, and the letter that we sent to the town as part of a hearing in terms of where this, traffic concerns along the borderline with the Metropolis Country Club and all of that. And again, we'll go over that again tonight. Then we talked a little bit about where we are in the RJ Bailey Auditorium refurbishment project. That's the $500K that Tom Avenanti provided for us, and we're putting together the package for submission to NYSED. Then the other projects, right? The Warburg campus water lines and fire hydrants. Phase 1 and the progress there, and there's a little more progress this month than there was last month. And then we went over all the smaller projects, building by building. And then I believe that was about it. Okay, so does anybody see anything in those minutes that needs to be corrected? Okay, so we've got one amendment at this point, and that's putting the doctor and Dr. Macaluso.
So I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Minutes adopted. Okay, back to now, go to the agenda. Yeah. Okay, so again, we're going to look a little bit at the energy performance contract topic, and just to briefly review, Con Edison Solutions proposal for at the time that they proposed it was $20.3 million. It includes LED lighting for all schools, direct digital controls for all HVAC systems, new condensing water heaters, software controls for computers, so they'll turn them off when they're not in use, timer controls for window ACs, installation of bare piping and improved building envelope and weatherization, For the F. Jackson, they'll add a natural gas line. For Highview, they'll add a natural gas line. New boilers, rebuild the air handling units and rooftop solar panels, refrigeration compressors for freezers. RJ Bailey, they'll rebuild all the air handling units, replace the steam traps. Woodlands, a natural gas line, replacement of outside air intakes and rooftop units, and installation of solar PV carport and battery energy storage system at the football field. And this project pays for itself with energy savings and rebates from NYSERDA and a little bit of extra state government aid, we're hoping. There's no additional cost to taxpayers. On 11/15, the board passed a resolution authorizing a public vote on the proposition authorizing 10% New York state aid. That's the thing that we were looking at in the minutes, the exact proposition. $21 million EPC project is the ceiling. In the event the proposition fails or rising interest rates increase costs, the project will be scaled back as needed. And as a result of that, there will be no additional cost to taxpayers. The vote will be held on January 17th, 2022. Mark your calendars. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. at the Woodlands Gymnasium. For voter registration, absentee ballot, military ballot information, contact our district clerk, Christine DiFrancesco. That's KDIFRANCESCO at greenburghcsd.org. Or you can call her at 914-761-6000, extension 3114. So we're having a January vote, and that requires some publicity efforts in order for the voters to know that the proposition is out there. A special edition of the Falconer has already been mailed to all district households. I'm just curious, can you put me back to the gallery view just for a second?
Oh. Zoom?
Yeah, Zoom gallery view. Stop sharing just for a second, because I want you to raise your hand if you received the hard copy. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the rest of us are administrators. Okay. All right, so not bad. It's getting out there. Okay.
Could I make a comment, please?
Sure. Go ahead.
Mine came addressed to resident. So the concern is there that in places like High Point, they might not get put in individuals' mailboxes.
Mr. Simon, did it come in your mailbox?
That is exactly my point. We have to make a special effort for High Point because, as you know, the people here in High Point is the main reason why the bond failed. And so we have to talk, I'm on the board here and I'm doing my best on the inside to talk it up, but we have to make sure that that information is sent and circulated. Now, I gave the email addresses of the property manager, and High Point is 3 separate condo associations, and the email addresses of the presidents. So we need to make sure they get that directly. And then from the inside, I will make sure that that's circulated in on our website for the development and posted on the bulletin boards. So it's extremely important that that information is sent out.
Okay, and I have received that email. I have not yet responded because I was busy doing this agenda, but I will get to that immediately tomorrow.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, who holds the mailing list again? Is that with the district clerk?
What's going to happen? Well, the CEC gets it. The district clerk gets it because sometimes we may have projects that are secret effects, right? And I'm going to put it on the Finance and Facilities Committee distribution as well.
No, I mean, who holds the mail list that we send to our calendar publishers, our newsletter publishers, to have it put to the mail? Who holds that?
Yes, we hold that. The Central Office Administration holds that.
So who
You mean, are you asking me if it's
Because there's
Ivy or if it's Christine?
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, so traditionally, it would have been the Christine position that would have held on to that. There may be a little bit of, instruction for people who are new going on.
Yep.
So it might get shared a little bit both ways, but the district clerk normally holds on to that.
But they're not addressing the stuff. They're sending that file, that data file.
They send the
to
data file to
printer.
whoever the printer is,
Gotcha.
the printer prints it out, they look at the proofs,
Right.
and then back it goes. I think there are Monday meetings weekly as to what they're gonna do publicity wise for a given week, what their Facebook posts will be, what their printed stuff will be.
Just because, so where I live, 95% of us get it. I'm in a co-op complex, but there's
Okay.
one particular block that, because even though the backs of the buildings are on East Hartsdale Avenue, their address is East Hartsdale, but there's no doors there. We suspect they're not on, either they're not on the list or it's getting delivered to elsewhere. So I need to check with the
Yep.
person to see if those addresses are on the list. Now regarding resident or name, again, I'm in a complex. I think it's my name or resident, so it still gets to me. It's just a matter of how it's delivered in your particular complex, I think, at the end of the day.
Correct, and we talked about this
So,
for the
I know,
regular
I know.
newsletter, right?
I'm
We
just
did
saying.
name
I'm
or
just-
resident.
Yeah,
Then
I'm
you don't
pointing
lose
out,
any pieces.
I'm pointing out that the resident, as long as the address is there, it still should be delivered, to Ms. Allen's point and to, Mr. Simon's point, that, they get, come down to mail
Okay, we could do that. And then the second thing I wanted to do was to take a look at what's on the district website, because we can easily edit that at this point, and see if we're satisfied with the FAQ and the other documents. So at this point, could you bring up, the main district website, and then there'll be a energy performance contract, the menu item in the upper right-hand corner. Click on energy performance contract, and then there are questions and answers, there's notice and voting information. So let's look at, questions and answers. Okay, and scroll up so we can look at it. Okay, so the questions are, what is an energy performance contract? Why is GCSD proposing it? When will the work take place? If the board's already approved the EPC, why isn't voter approval needed? And what happens if voters do not approve this proposition? Is that it? Okay, so I think there should probably be another one, and then it's all in Spanish as well as in English. I think there should be another question that said, how much does this cost the taxpayer? And that it should say, there is no cost to district residents.
Get 3 hands raised there.
Yes, Katie.
I was going to say what you said too. Basically, I would have liked to have seen in the newsletter more of a. I did see in the proposition itself, it says at no cost, no resulting cost to the taxpayers.
Yep.
But I would like to see that.
But it's small print, right?
In a Q&A, and I found online this article that was about EPCs, and I liked how everything, when they mentioned it, they mentioned guaranteed energy savings performance contract or guaranteed energy cost savings contract. So if we could have like the word guaranteed before energy performance contract, that might help people be like, oh, what is, even ask like what's guaranteed. But I like that word. I did see it in our frequently asked questions once, but it says an EPC guarantees savings. But like, I think we should capitalize on that word.
Guaranteed, okay.
And I know it was quick. I didn't see like, is there a plan to do school messenger blasts and stuff like the?
We have issues with whether we can target or not. So if you have a targeted list, the idea is that the district supposedly has this big megaphone. So we're not allowed to do things like say, vote yes on the budget or any proposition. We can't take a position. And we're also not supposed to target just the people we think will vote yes. We're supposed to broadcast to everyone. So a district newsletter that goes out to every household in the district is great. But if I, as the district, sent a newsletter just to parents, that would not pass muster legally. So we have to be careful if we're gonna do that, if we did a phone blast, we'd have to do a phone blast to all households in the district.
Oh, okay.
So
So
that
an outside group could do that though, if they wanted to do
an
it.
outside group can do anything they want. So if you came up with the greatest formula, was Jessica Muldoon, did you come up with an email with a wonderful set of slogans that looked like it would just sell this thing?
It's in your packet.
I tried to.
I think I posted it, and we have this problem that you're doing this great job of telling us why we should vote yes on the bond, but we have to like play it as if, you know, we're just informing the public as to the benefits and ups and downs of the thing in as objective a manner as possible. But if you can get at it from the outside, you can express your opinion as strongly as you wish. However, there may be some overlap. What do you want to talk next? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that's important for us to hear, because reading that special newsletter was a bit frustrating, because this is just such a clear win for the district. But knowing kind of where legally you're allowed to go is important for us to know. And parents, community members, and Mr. Simon, I'm happy to come. We can set something up at Highview to or have a group of us come and talk with people. Like those types of dispatching us around to groups, I think is really important, having a plan. Do we want to be at specific places? We can do a certain amount easily digitally, but what else do we need to do in person? But at that key point, I think that the contract says Con Ed is guaranteeing that they would offset if we didn't have the energy savings that year, that's critical. Yeah. And really how to amplify that. And I don't think that doesn't seem like it's pushing people to vote yes, it's just really amplifying that part of contract. So any way that can be added into the FAQs, I would support.
Carol?
I have 3 comments. One, we can ask Paul Feiner if he could send out a notice to the entire community stating that they can go to our website for information concerning the vote on the 17th, because he loves to send out messages every day. Second, if schools are closed on the 17th because of bad weather, what will happen with the election? And the third thing is, if I were a Spanish-speaking individual, I probably would not scroll to the bottom of this page to see that it is also written in Spanish. So if we can make modifications, we could consider putting the text side by side, or we could put the Spanish paragraphs immediately below the English paragraphs so that they can see right at the top that there is a Spanish version for them to read.
Or we could put a link at the top that says en Espanol and you go right to it.
Yeah.
That would work also.
At top. Okay. If schools are closed, I think the election goes on. The polls open anyway, as long as we're physically able to get the polls open. That's how that works.
Well, if schools are closed because of bad weather, it's a good likelihood people are not going to come out.
I'm not going to be able to get to it. That's true. Okay, Mr. Simon.
Let me just pull down my hand for it. I think we need to restructure the presentation. I think the very first paragraph, you just state that what it is guaranteed savings, and in one paragraph state what it is. Then you go into the question and answer. You don't want, when people read notices, they lose interest very quickly. That's universal. So you don't want a person to read down a whole page before they get to the meat of what you're saying. We should put at the very first paragraph a synopsis that we're getting these energy savings. It's not causing, not having any effect on your taxes. Those are the key thing. That should be right up front. And then if you have question and answers, then you could do that. But you have to make your point immediately.
Okay. Thank you. And Gabriella?
Hi, just to follow up on what Carol mentioned, and that's something that's coming up obviously across the board to have translations, but one thing we found helpful is that before and I'm saying we, and this is at Highview PTA I'm referring to, is that we'll put a simple sentence in Spanish saying, basically, please scroll down. So, if it's something lengthy that we're sending out.
Gabby, we lost you.
I heard you. I can still hear you.
Yeah.
You can still hear me? Hold on, let me get off the.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
I hear you.
We can hear you.
You may continue speaking.
Oh, okay, sorry. What I was saying is that we put a simple sentence basically saying, please scroll down. So whoever opens it doesn't assume that it's just in English. That's what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Megan?
When it comes to trying to find community groups that are allowed to kind of push for a vote yes, has anyone connected with the PTA council to try to send that communication down through the PTAs so we can send that message through all the schools?
I'm not going to speak on behalf of a PTA unit. You are the PTA council liaison.
I'm a PTA council, so
They're
tell them-
hamstrung as well, unless they take a vote of all the units, I believe, to
Right.
make a stand on a position. So if they don't do that, they're equally hamstrung as far as informing about how to vote. They can vote that there is a vote. They can inform.
So
they can inform their organization, which has a tendency to go in a particular direction.
Right.
So my understanding of the board of the PTA was that when we had the bond vote, each individual PTA is allowed to take their own board vote to decide if their PTA supports whatever proposition. And if their board supports it, they can promote it. So there were PTAs during the bond vote that did say vote yes. I know at that time, I believe it was Jackson had been mixed so that they didn't promote it one way or the other, but the other PTAs did. So if it came down from council as a message all PTAs received, then we could send a message through the weekly principal emails coming from the PTA boards that are saying vote yes for this.
I don't know about that. That's where you might get tricky with communication sharing. Right now, that might be one of the reasons why for a while communications from the PTAs via the school were stopped. So you don't want to risk that. I'm speaking out of turn, but I don't know if you.
Okay, so as a PTA liaison, I think I'm allowed to tell them it exists. I'm not allowed to tell them to vote yes or no. If individual units, and I used to be like on the PTA council, right? So what would happen is individual units can vote, as you said, for or against if they want to endorse something, right? And then if they want to endorse something as individual units, they can do it. If you wanted the council to do it, so that the council as the district-wide thing to do it, they'd have this, each place would have to have an individual vote for their unit and then send their delegates to the council meeting, and the council would have to vote for it. And then you get the entire district pushing in that direction, but it takes forever to go through the process of getting every unit to have an individual vote and then send their delegates in and then they get approval there. So yes, the individual PTA units, that's a much more efficient process if that's what's going to happen.
I mean, on this committee, we have what, 3 units minimum represented. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping you guys are taking that back to your units and having these discussions. Maybe not.
Okay, so I see Megan still has her hand up.
No, that's well, the other thing I wanted to mention was The special edition Falconer was very well written and very clear, but it did not bold or emphasize that there is no tax impact to the owner, the property owner. And it actually says in the second paragraph that the district anticipates that there will be no additional cost. So that word guarantee was not used there, and it was anticipated that there will be no cost to the district, which I find concerning because
It weakens the statement. Okay.
it weakens the statement, and someone who doesn't know anything about this would perceive it as there is room where we may have to pay for this. So it was I felt the Falconer was well written, but it didn't emphasize that certainty that this is guaranteed and there is no tax impact. So I think we have a lot of work to do in all the other publicly presented items that we have, that is highlighted and front and center.
Okay.
David, maybe we need to stress that we need an end user eyeing that draft before it goes to the printer. I know we talk about it sometimes, and sometimes we get little glances at it, but it's never really the end product. And if you're talking about having effective communications towards an end user and we're shared decision-making, especially on this committee, and getting buy-in from the community, I think that's a valuable input. I don't know, I'm thinking ahead, it's too late now, but thinking ahead to next time.
We can do anything we want to any of our social media posts. We do anything we want to the district website.
But this is the only thing that goes to everybody. So if we advocate that we want an end user, whether it's someone in this committee or another committee or a board, the board in and of itself to eye the draft before it goes to the printer,
that would be a good thing.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I think we kind of have our marching orders, and we'll kick this back to Lisa. You saying we should have an end user on the? We'll come up with a draft, and we got to show it to somebody, and then we post it as soon as we can. Okay.
David, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Simon.
We are going into the Christmas holidays, and this is the 17th. I think we really don't have the time. I would recommend that we come up with an action plan at this meeting, because we really don't have much time to get things out and circulate it, because, basically, you have the month of January. Very little could get done between now and Christmas. So we should at least outline an action. These are the steps we will take. We don't have to draft the document, but things like several people mentioned, right from the beginning, the document has to be clear that it's guaranteed. There's no tax increase, and that has to be front and center. So I think it'd be helpful if we could at least agree upon that. I'm a little concerned about the reactions of the Parents Association. This is a slam dunk. There's no controversy. So I don't see why there should be any reluctance on the part of the Parents Associations to get behind it. So I'm a little, I can see the bond issue that, yeah, you could have difference of opinion. But this is a slam dunk. We're trying to convince the residents that it's a slam dunk. You will save money. And the Parents Association, there seems to be a reluctance to move swiftly and get behind it.
Okay. So understand that there are people out sick and that we can't make things not move in terms of district internal communications. We have to work around that. So whoever's here, okay, we will work with the people that are here. We will not let it go off into outer space and not do anything. We'll work on updating that draft tomorrow. We don't have another Finance and Facilities Committee this side of the election. So I expect that there will be some communications via email. and you can provide suggestions, and we're going to update the website as soon as we draft the text.
So,
Excuse
go
me,
ahead.
for one other thing I might add, I'm sorry to interrupt you. When you send out the information of the new draft to the presidents of the condo association, could you also copy me so I could follow up and make sure that it's being disseminated throughout High Point?
Okay.
question.
Yes.
Of everyone here, who is on the PTA council board besides the president and vice president, or president and immediate past president? I think Ms. Geddes is the treasurer.
Okay.
Who else?
I don't know.
No one on this
Ellen
call?
Davis,
Right, no, I know her. I know,
he's at,
yep, no, those are the two I knew.
and
And Amy, those are the three I know.
sorry, I'm blanking on the vice president's name right now.
Edith Horn.
I have an email.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
in which they invited me to one of their PTA council meetings, and it has everybody on it.
So they have the next, well, according to the district calendar, the next PTA council meeting is the 9th of January. Just FYI. I don't know when their regular meeting with the superintendent is. And if they've discussed this, I don't know.
Sent to PTA.
But it'd be great if somehow the units, since there's at least 3 of you on this call, could encourage, and David Hughes liaison could encourage PTA council at that meeting on the 9th, if they're still having it, to possibly have an open PTA council meeting and a virtual broadcast one to any unit member and invite you as a guest to speak at that meeting. I'm not running that show. I'm just throwing it out into the air for people to make a suggestion or not. But it's good timing because it's before the vote, a week before the vote.
Meeting, okay. Send to neighborhood. There used to be a council of civic associations. I also was able to, in the past, go to the town of Greenburgh, and they kept track of the heads of all the civic associations. And I just did that very recently, and they came back to me with their list from 2020. Which means that they don't have as updated an information as I thought. I don't know who's in charge of the Hillside Wendover Civic Association. Does anyone know that information? Okay, so I'm gonna have to do a little more effort to try and do that. Thank you, Mr. Simon, for providing me with the Civic Association contacts for High Point. But that's, yeah, go ahead.
Is Mr. Court over in there or no?
Lloyd Court, yeah, I have Lloyd Court. Lloyd Court is a constant.
Okay.
So I don't need to update Lloyd Court's contact information.
Right, okay.
I need some other
That's the only
contact.
name I knew from them.
Okay. Right. Lloyd Court is an institution.
Mhm.
Okay. Very good. All right. Those are the things that we plan on doing. You should see some text soon that is updated. And there any other questions or comments before we move on?
Just a quick, because like we can move on the PTA side following the protocols that we need to. We're not reluctant. We just need to follow protocol. But are we going to push to do a presentation at High Point? Are we going to push to have a delegation of us up there to help? Because we can get every parent out to vote, but we can be outnumbered very easily by busloads of people who don't understand what's going on. So are we going to like commit to like a date or time or a Saturday that we're allowed to go kind of be around to help answer questions? So we can get information to parents easily.
With the most knowledge on this topic.
Okay, what I can do, that's why it's important to first get the information out. And that's why I say copy me, and I make sure that that information is disseminated. And then we could follow up with a meeting. So So the first thing, and make sure everyone get it, and then, yeah, I'll be happy to work with anyone. And to get our clubhouse open to residents to come in and meet with us. You know, I'm committed to doing that with you. It would have to be in, well, it will have to be in very early January because I'm going away for Christmas. And that's, you know, by the time, if we could get the information disseminated before I leave next week, that'll be a good step. And then when I come back in early January, we could say, you know, I can lay the groundwork for a meeting in early January.
Problem is, not a problem, we have 9 school days after the break. What about?
Yep.
We're not here on that Monday, and then there's MLK Day.
Yep, it's all true.
David?
So as far as youth school resources.
Katie?
Yeah, I know Miss Raymond's not here. I don't know if Amy has any answer to this, but I'm just curious what feedback the district has gotten and what question, like if people have been sending in questions or any feedback. I know like Jessica posted something on a Facebook group, Harsdale Families and Greenburgh Families, and there was one comment from a community member and it was positive, like, hey, this sounds like a great initiative. But I'm just wondering, have we gotten any kind of sense from anyone other than parents?
Amy, do you know anything?
I have not heard of anything, but I don't want to say that we haven't, but I have not heard of anything.
Mr. Pugliese, anybody talk to you?
I have not heard of any feedback, no.
Do we have an address where they send questions?
The few people I've spoken to with the general idea, I didn't have a piece of paper to give to them. It was positive reception. I'm saying this is like a slam dunk. So we should really be pushing it as hard as possible.
David?
Yes.
It's Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. The PTA council meeting is scheduled for January 9th at 7 p.m. And you have not yet officially been invited, but you will be to be the first speaker at that meeting.
Okay. TW speaks on EPC. Good.
And the meeting is at RJ Bailey.
Thank you. Can't get much more efficient than that. All right.
I don't think we put an address in here for people to send
Well,
questions
then we
to,
need to
did
do
we?
something about that. Okay.
Unless I missed
So
it.
I've got
I haven't
that,
seen
that's
it.
on my list.
I don't see it anywhere on the newsletter or the web pages.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Yeah.
All right, so at this point, we're going to go back into,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Julie, I'm not sure who you're communicating with, but could you put a plug in that they do a Zoom, virtual Zoom that everybody in every unit could attend if they wanted
Consider
to
it done.
at council meeting?
Yep, consider it done.
Thank you.
Okay. So now, we're about to go off into the ordinary, as Lisa Raymond is not here tonight, I will say that that in terms of moving on to the next item on the agenda, that's finance. Everything is as described in previous months, with the exception of a small amount of additional funding having been spent on the roofing project for the mansion. So it's up to $130,000 has been expended out of the 1.4 million in terms of getting the masonry into place. And then that will be followed by, you know, a little bit of asbestos removal and then the putting the roof on. So other than that, everything listed here is pretty much what was listed last month.
David.
Yes.
Point number 2 under that section, the American Rescue Plan funds that have to be used by September 2024.
Yes.
I think we had a to-do list either last meeting or the meeting before to find out what is considered used. Is it encumbered? Is it actually paid out? is it a plan is okay, a plan is up at NICE and still needs approval, but does that count? I think we needed some clarification on at what point is it considered
Okay, take that down
safe to be
as a to-do.
reimbursed? I don't know if Amy has any information on that either.
Is this, Amy, do you know?
So if I'm hearing the question correctly, at what point is it considered?
To be reimbursed for those American Rescue Plan funds, there's a deadline of September 2024, but if we haven't actually paid out the bill.
Right. So what happens is you always, with every grant, you get a percentage to start you with. So once we've expended or expensed over that first amount, then we could draw down more of those funds. And of course, we have to make sure we've spent and encumbered everything before, or at least by, the end of September 2024.
So if we have drawn up plans and they're waiting for approval at NICEAD, but we haven't yet had to pay contractors, we might not be able to use those funds to pay those contractors if we don't get those approvals before September 2024.
I'm
looking for the worst case scenario.
Right. So worst case scenario, if everything is not in place, then you could, and with any grant, you could lose the funding, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
So we might need to see.
Well,
as long as we get
the first step is that you try and pass the proposition, and then you yes.
But
then
if
you
we're not
determine
talking
how
about phase 2 until this time frame.
Well, then we might not be able to wait for phase 2, depending on how slow and cumbersome getting all of phase 2 together turns out to be.
So we
might have to
should-
fast track it to use the money.
As long as the funds are encumbered, then.
Right. We
Then
need
we're
a date
okay.
if we're
But
not-
if the funds are encumbered, then that holds it. So that's very important, because oftentimes you may not be able to actually move, forward. But if you know what's needed, you can do the encumbrances. So
That's okay.
Okay,
yeah.
and we don't lose them. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Must be encumbered. Good. Okay.
Katie has her hand up.
Yes, Katie.
Yeah, I had a question, since we have the audit committee chair here. Where can one like me find the corrective action plans in print? And also, I haven't seen any minutes for this year or even the last year, like on the website where I see committee minute. I've seen audit committee minutes from, months and months and months ago, but not like, not.
Yes, I had problems. I'm having problems with the FinFact meeting minutes too. Go ahead.
Yes, I had committed to our new district clerk to get her the minutes before the holiday break, so I probably should have done it by today so that they could be posted. So that's one part. As far as viewing the corrective action plan, yes, it's a public document, but I need to confirm if I can share it with you or if you need to come in and look at it. So let me look into that and get back to you. That's okay.
Thanks.
So they can't see all the attachments that we have to our agenda, correct? Because they're classified as administrative?
I need to confirm.
Because they are attached to the resolutions that we passed, approving them by the board, so. Okay.
Sure. Are they still unlocked? Well, I'll get back to you.
Okay. Well, the audit committee update is obviously new. The audit committee met on 11/28/22. Did you want to go over this?
No, I gave a report at the last board meeting and I don't have all my information with me here.
They reviewed both corrective action plans for both the independent audit and the internal audit. And the board adopted those at that meeting. So this is the 12/6 meeting. So they should be attached to the 12/6 meeting.
Yeah, I'm gonna look right now. Okay.
The New York State audit process continues endlessly. Do we have an update on that? Amy, do you know anything more?
They're still here. So,
And what are their major issues?
So they're looking at our tax search years, and they're also looking at some of our bids processing and things like that. So pretty much we give them what they ask for, and so far so good, but they're still here,
Okay,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Docs are locked, the audit
It's a
docs
long
are
process.
locked
okay.
to the public. I know when I was attending as a public member before, I could view them in the meeting, but you guys made me turn them back into you. I couldn't take them home. So I'll verify, Katie, and follow up with you on how to
Well,
do
at
that.
worst case, you can foil it, but you shouldn't. have
Right,
it.
which is why you shouldn't need to do that if,
Yeah. Okay, request for proposal for independent auditor has been posted and interviews are planned for January of 2023. And that's pretty much it for the audit committee. The facilities fund, please be apprised that we do have that fund balance of 1.4 million from the 21-22 fund balance. Okay, so that was the relatively new piece, and the repair reserve has 4.3 million in it. But we would have to do things, if we want to do anything other than a strict repair, to move money out of that fund. Plan. Basically, we reached a point at which we got through phase 3 in about September, and then phase 4 is identifying all the tools that you will use to measure your progress against the goals that you set. So we have a number of action plans and an ad hoc committee, a subcommittee of the board with 3 people in it. We've met this is twice now, and we think we're going to need a 3rd meeting to polish that off, and the next meeting is scheduled for the 21st. Once that comes through, that will trickle back down to possibly changing what happens in terms of what the various committee charges are. So stay tuned for that. And that's kind of that. And then on to Woodlands Tennis Court aid. Okay. So to review, Gabriella Barajonas sent a letter to the UNS Tennis Association requesting aid for resurfacing our tennis courts. Gabriella and GCSD board and administrative representatives held a Google Meet with White Plains USTA representatives on Monday, 10/21/22. UST will provide partial funding to repair upgrade tennis courts. The amount is to be determined. They did send us some links. We appointed Dennis Pugliese to be the primary person in charge of that. Did you want to take it from here?
Yep, I had a conversation with the U.S. Tennis Association design consultant, and just she was explaining the process of applying for the grant and how much funding there is. It's not as much funding as we had originally thought, and it's a process where they want to ensure that before they put any funding in it, that whatever they help to fund, it's going to last for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So they have some concerns. You have to go through their engineering. They look at you have to follow the specifications. The grant amount, typically for 3 courts or 4 courts, it's either 20 or 35,000. That's if you got the full maximum amount of everything, but there's lesser amounts that are.
And do they usually max out for if they approve you, or do they usually give you an average?
They said it's very competitive, and that would be the best case scenario. Probably figure a little bit lower, middle of the road.
Okay.
That would be like the.
What criteria can we max out?
The max out would be 35,000.
No. What are they looking for? What makes a good?
A hard, durable court that has good drainage. That's what they're looking for.
Okay.
Not so much of the synthetic grass. They're looking for the harder court surfaces.
And the fact that our last proposal, let's see, that was a $283,000 proposal back in 2021 before you got here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was to partially, they have this Turf Tech product, and they were going to leave the existing asphalt in place and put the Turf Tech over the top of it. So then does that count as a hard
surface?
They want to really have the engineers come out and look at the foundation, the structure, the drainage, to find out if there's heaving that would probably have to be addressed.
So site visit.
Site visit. Yes.
Okay.
Where did I hear recently that they actually don't like the turf tech, or am I speaking out of turn?
At the meeting that we had, they didn't like the turf tech. They said hardcore turf tech by itself is not what we want. It looks good. It doesn't wear well. It doesn't play well. It looks good for a while, right? So that they were not happy with just turf tech by itself. And then we asked for, so what constitutes a good court?
Right.
And then they came back and said, we'll get back to you. And then,
Well, is turf tech
Gabrielle, you
usually-
wanna weigh in on this?
I'm wondering if the architects know if turf tech is less expensive or more expensive than
Yeah, that's what
hardcore.
I'm trying to find out.
Sorry, I was
Yeah,
trying to
sorry.
mute myself.
Yeah.
To answer your question, David, and I get, the cost factor, right? Because that's really, I'm a little disappointed to hear that they won't, or what the amount of funding. I get they also work across the country, right? With other schools, with other facilities. I mean, they know the conditions of our courts, right? But I think as far as like the material, I think given the condition, right, it's beyond repair. I think, and I know people may disagree with me, but heading with something that like, let's do it right now and not something that's going to require maintenance every, 2-3 years. I don't know much about the turf, but I do remember from the call that they advised against it. I think they mentioned there's a facility in Nassau County that has it.
In spite of what they wanted, yes.
Right, and so, but again, I know cost is an issue, right?
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. So we have to take that into consideration, and you have to make a calculation based upon the fact that they're gonna put $20,000 in on the one hand, and then but then the alternative methodology may cost $50,000.
Yeah,
So
typically.
generally speaking, sorry, and there's two hand raised. Generally speaking, do the architects know what costs more, hardcore or turf tech?
Yeah.
Like, is this,
They recommended turf tech because it was inexpensive.
Yeah.
But what I want to find out is if we're gonna be competitive in Westchester County, what is everybody else using around the county? If 95% of the county is using something and they're having all the matches there, is there a reason? It's, so I'd like to find out not only the cost, but what is everybody doing?
Yeah, from my conversations, like the hardcore, the blacktop, the hardcore.
Everybody got the black.
Not everybody, but that's, from what I understand, that's the majority of.
So asphalt.
Yeah.
Asphalt,
And typically, they were telling me
Can I
it's
add something?
approximately 100,000 per court, give or take. So if you have 3 courts, you're looking at a few 100,000 typically.
And 289, okay.
Yeah, that's some rough numbers because I just inquired, the engineers.
Okay. Katie,
Yes, I just had my hand up to let you know there was a typo because I think the meeting happened 11/21/22, not 10/21/22 in your second bullet point. And in the building condition survey, I thought we were dealing with a 500K estimate, but I could have been wrong. And then
that is in the building condition survey. The 500K estimate was there. That was the original
Yeah.
estimate. We came back and said, hey, could we do less for less money? And that was where the 283K came in. There's a YouTube recording, if that link works, on your, right, you all have access to this thing. And an hour into the FinFact meeting on 10/28/21, posted on YouTube, there's the whole discussion and what BBS said then. Does BBS wish to weigh in on this?
Well, I think, it's going to depend upon the scope. Originally, I think what we'd identified was milling up the existing asphalt putting brand new asphalt in, brand new drainage in, all new net posts, all new fencing. And then there's a surface, it's a kind of a rubberized paintable surface that goes on the top of the courts. And you stripe them. So usually green quartz with red around the perimeter is typical, but you can do different colors. So that's what was represented originally in the higher dollar amount. What we were trying to do as part of the lower dollar amount was to see if we could use the existing asphalt. It does have some cracking in it. So we were going to try and repair that cracking and then go over it with the other surface. So we were trying to keep the cost down on that. So if that's not something that the USTA is happy with, we've never done a concrete court. That would increase the cost fairly dramatically, but we have typically done a number of asphalt tennis courts.
Asphalt, okay.
So.
Are there trees?
Go ahead.
Walter's.
All right.
Mr. Simon.
Mr. Simon.
Jerry Byrne, the Commissioner of Parks for the town, just got some funding to put in several new tennis courts, pickleball courts, and he did a lot of research on this. So it might worth our while just to give him a call and see what his experience has been in terms of cost and the various options. I know he did a lot of work on that before he made his proposal before the planning board and the town board on this court. So I think he could be a useful resource.
If we did a piggyback on their bid or their supply bid, I don't know how that works. Is that a way to, is that doable for us to piggyback on a municipality?
Depending, we've done things like that before. The question is, where's the in its process?
Right.
Yeah, on a state contract, if it's an open contract.
Just to save some cost if we're using the same material within our.
Yeah. Anyhow, even if we don't piggyback on it, we should at least pick his brain.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Pugliese, are there, is the asphalt getting torn? I mean, asphalt has its wear and tear normally, but I also know where I live, sometimes the tree roots expand and make it buckle up. Is there an issue?
I think down below it's more of a, I was told more of a drainage issue.
Okay.
Not so much roots and such,
Okay.
but I believe it's more of water runoff from the hill.
And that's what that higher estimate was going to address, according to.
Yeah, just drainage in there.
Okay.
Of course. Just real quick, is there any other place, if we were to drop a brand new tennis court, is there any place on the campus that we could do if we have drainage problem? We got all this land around it. Is there any other place we've thought about dropping a brand new and maybe cheaper to drop a brand new tennis court rather than dig up, get rid of?
Oh, you mean so here's the problem. So you're sitting there and when you drive up to the gym, the first thing you see is a set of tennis courts. So if you don't dig up the old tennis courts because you're trying to save money, then you'll have these decrepit, unworking tennis courts sitting there right in front of everything.
Yeah, I got that. That's just not pretty, but what I'm saying to save money, have we thought about just finding a place and put a new tennis court? You could put up a fence.
You can put up another set of tennis courts right next to the tennis courts if you want.
Well, I don't know how much area to have for folks up, but what I'm saying is if there's a drainage problem over there, have we thought of any other place?
Like where there are tennis courts by the mansion.
Right, or it's something over there where behind you don't have to worry about the drainage. Because if they come back and they come back and say, you know.
I'm just thinking that the drain, as far as the drainage issue, it's on the edge of the hill, so.
Right, well, you know what's happening with the mansion.
Yes, yeah.
It's about to fall down the hill.
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay.
He's exaggerating, please ignore that.
Go look at the retaining wall behind the mansion. Okay. So you're talking about what I think of as the rusted out basketball court in the area close to where the
I was thinking something like that. If, you know, we have actually looked around and taken a look and say, hey, is there another area like that rusted out basketball court or someplace else. You know, I'm just saying to be open-minded about it. And, you know, if there's a drainage problem and the drainage is gonna be $100,000 just for that, and we have a place where there's not a drainage problem, you know, you're talking.
Sure, that's the place I'm talking about. Are there other tennis courts I don't know about? Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
I'll investigate.
there are no existing drainage issues. Mansion. Or east of Mansion, say that.
Hey, David, I'm sorry, can I jump in or was there someone have their hand raised?
Go ahead. I'm
So
just
to
taking.
Mr. Simon, okay, to Mr. Simon's comment, right? That's a good point. So the number, the estimate that was drawn up, was it a couple of years ago or maybe 3 years ago? That was including, that included solving any drainage issues, right? So what is the cost of, I guess, of a court on its own without assuming no other issues?
So you
Do
said
we have-
Newport $100,000?
That was just a ballpark figure. You know, they really, it varies, but I said, you know, about what are we talking? Just so.
Got it.
I have some information for myself.
Okay. If you have a drainage issue, you have to deal with. If you,
Right.
yes, you're not subject to the town's code, but even the state have regulations that when you build, you have to address the drainage problem with these Caltech units. These are underground, like a sophisticated dry wells, that even the water coming off of the mansion should be going into a Caltech and not just running on the ground. So I assume that's the case with the mansion, that those gutters are going into Caltech units. Is that so?
I do not know the answer to that question. I don't know.
Okay,
Mike,
but
do
that's-
you know the
that's-
answer to that?
Okay, but it should be. So that, because if it's not doing that, is not consistent with the state code, let alone the town code, and that water from those downspout will run downhill and right into the tennis court and exacerbate the problems that we have in the tennis court. So Caltech's, like I said, they sophisticated dry wells should be part of the tennis court if that has a drainage problem, and it should be part of the mansion.
So I know that in terms of redoing the roof of the mansion, they're gonna do a set of gutters. Now, is there anything in the plans? What happens at the drainage point of the gutters? Do we know?
Some of them go into the existing grounds. A lot of them go into underground piping that's there. Where that goes to, no, I don't think anybody knows.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they're cast iron pipes that are probably 100 years old.
Okay. I just want you to make aware that if this, I know the town code won't allow, but I'm saying even the state codes, that you report to the state, and I'd be surprised if the state does not require that retention basin or something for those gutters. If those gutters go into the wetland, that might be okay if it's just the gutters. If not, it would require a Caltech system. So we don't want to, because this is subject to state inspection, I assume.
No, it's just subject to state education department review and approval. They actually don't come out and inspect anything.
Oh, okay. But even if they don't come out looking at the plans, I would assume they would raise the question of where that water is going, that's coming out of the gutters.
Well, they will as soon as you touch a system. And
Okay.
you know,
I just want everyone to be aware of
So
it.
what do? You walk around with a metal detector and try and find cast iron piping under the ground, or?
But you had some dry wells when that building was originally built.
Okay.
There were dry wells and there were cast iron pipes that took the roof drainage to go down into dry wells. If I remember correctly, I think a couple of those, either the dry wells collapsed or the lines maybe clogged or something, and they've been diverted onto the ground. Some of them still go down into the dry wells underground, and a couple of them, I think they're just splash blocks because at the time somebody put a temporary solution there rather than digging up the dry well and trying to figure out what's going on. They just put an elbow there and they drained it out onto grade. So I think you have a combination of both of those there, if I remember correctly, that building, but I would have to go back and look at my notes to make sure.
Okay. Fair enough. Another thing to look at. Okay, well, that took us a distance. Are there any other questions or comments on tennis court aid? I have one outstanding issue, and that's that if USTA has a certain level of funding, I think there was a suggestion back in 2021 that we look at corporate sponsorship. And I don't know whether you could name things after corporations or people in corporations or not.
Funny,
And that
like,
might be some, yes.
I looked at that policy earlier today and I took out the paper with the number on it. Let me see if I still have it open. I know there's
a policy
talking
on
about-
naming things,
Yeah,
right?
and it's basically, it needs to be for educational purposes.
Mhm.
It shouldn't, okay, here it is. Policy 3160 for future reference. Considers the naming of a district field the highest distinction, ensure blah, blah, blah. Can be physical spaces as well as outdoor areas, may honor a living or deceased individual, shall provide an outstanding contribution to the district, the nation, or society at large, may recognize a geographic section, shall not consider any gifts or contributions in determining the naming of the facility.
Okay,
So that seems to.
That
check off
takes
the
care of that.
table. Yep.
okay. We can ask for sponsorship, but we can't name things based on that sponsorship. Although we could say, hey, we want to name it after this person who has historical significance.
Right.
And yeah, want to contribute? Okay. We can do that.
Mhm.
All right, fair enough. Any other comments or questions before we move on?
Hey, David, it's Gabriella. Just, are you guys okay if I speak to the person who led me to the contact at the USTA? She used to work at the USTA for many years. What are other options that we can look at?
I would say that we would look for additional options. I would say that we would try and get any money we can from the USTA and go to the next person and say,
Oh,
hey,
no,
you know,
of
the
course.
USTA is going to sponsor us for today. You want to be in on this? Okay. And do
No,
that.
no, of course. I just figured like, because she was in, she worked there, she's a little more familiar with, maybe kind of to point us, she pointed us in this direction, maybe a suggestion of, what our next direction should be. So I just want to make sure if you guys are okay with that.
Continue to give beyond the help you've already given would be appreciated. Keep going, keep going.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, no, I just want to say, yeah, Gabriella, ask her who her connections are. Does she know,
Mhm.
I just keep feeling there's got to be somebody who wants to help a district with such a large number of kids of color and so in such a disrepair. And so I don't know. I looked up like Serena Williams Foundation, but it didn't seem to be about tennis courts. But I think we should still, whoever has the time could still look into all those things. So yeah, ask your connection.
That's a good, actually, I that crossed my mind, Katie, but I figured someone like Serena as an example, right? She would probably cater to where she's from and where she grew up. So I don't know, like exploring that route, I don't know the history of any players who have come out of Westchester. I don't know.
Okay. All right, moving on then. Metropolis Country Club. So basically, Metropolis Country Club applied for an amended site plan and tree removal permit related to construction of a maintenance and storage facility in the middle of the east side of the golf course, right? There would be fertilizer and pesticide storage, but it's 180 feet from the property line to the storage building, so we weren't concerned about that. An access driveway would be added west of the church. When we went over the maps in a previous month and looked, and you have Juniper Hill Road and Fair Street, and right, Juniper Hill Road has a spur, and if you were coming up Fair Street from the Terrytown Road side, and instead of turning left and going on up the hill on Juniper Hill Road, you turn right onto the kind of less well-maintained road that primarily provides access to us, and the true user is the country club. That's where they want to put an access driveway. They want the access driveway to come off of that Juniper Hill Road spur. The town said that's not really a road, that's kind of a paper road that's never been declared something that will be maintained by the town. And then, so they said, fine, we'll pave it to the point that our driveway comes off to the side. We'll put a sidewalk on it. And then the question was, which side of the road does the sidewalk go on? Does it go on the church and school property side, or by default, it goes on the Metropolis Country Club side? Because they're then they have to maintain the sidewalk, and they're the people who have the use for the road anyway. So we went through a whole big process. There was a public hearing from the town. There was a site visit. We got invited to the site visit. You had the church who wanted the sidewalk to be on the side with the country club. You kind of had us, if we didn't think there was a safety a benefit to having it on one side versus the other, that we just assumed let the country club maintain the sidewalk. And then you had the members of the Juniper Hill Civic Association who kind of wanted it on the other side. And we went back and forth. The public hearing closed up. We taught the traffic officer for the town of Greenburgh said, well, the one thing you want to do is to study the intersection where Juniper Hill Road and Fair Street meet, because the church is right there and kids do walk to school from there. Are there traffic issues? Do we need to put some stop signs in there to make it safer for the kids? How many kids are there? How much traffic is there? All of that. The Board of Education discussed this. We decided to send a letter saying, I guess two things. Let's study the intersection to see if there need to be stop signs. And then the second thing was, well, you want the road to be wide enough because people come in next to the church and pick up free food. There's a weekly food giveaway. So you want to keep the road wide enough, and you want cars to be able to pass each other. So don't make it just be too narrow. And we sent that letter of recommendation right after the public hearing closed. And then more permits were required, some for steep slopes, some for drainage. And so the drama continued for a little while. So I guess the update now is what happened since our last Finance and Facility Committee meeting. At the 11:29 town work session, I'm skipping to the bottom of page 5 here. Town traffic experts, other town staff, and the applicant, meaning Metropolis Country Club, reported that they had made a second site visit on 11/16. They agreed that pedestrian and vehicular traffic was minimal. A stop sign and a left turn only sign at the Juniper Hill Road spur exit would be sufficient. That is, if you're coming out of there, they don't want you, I guess, going into the church or up the hill. They want you to make a left turn and go back down towards Terrytown Road and just put a stop sign there. The sidewalk should be built on the north side of the road, that is on the Metropolis Country Club side of the road, because they felt that the telephone poles and the fire hydrants on one side, if you put the sidewalk on the opposite side, that you have restrictions on both sides of the road. So if you're trying to do parking, it gets more difficult to make that work. Whereas if the sidewalk is on the same side as the telephone poles and the fire hydrant, then you have some leeway in terms of how wide the road can be in terms of parking. because it's undeveloped property and you can widen it a little bit. And the applicant said, we'll make sure that it's 18 feet wide all the way to the point 20 feet past the driveway. And that's kind of it. There was some debate with the public and questions about drainage, but this recommendation prevailed. The town board passed the resolutions approving as much as needed to be approved for that. Now, wanting to have confirmation, okay, so the experts have come and looked at things and that was what they thought. To confirm the town staff conclusion that pedestrian traffic at the intersection of Juniper Hill Road and Fair Street is limited, David Warner observed the intersection at times corresponding to Woodland start and dismissal. So Woodland starts in the morning, Woodlands High School starts in the morning at 8 a.m. and dismisses at 2:45 p.m. So on Thursday, December 1st, from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m., I sat there in my Jeep and watched it, see how many pedestrians would go by. There were 7 pedestrian trips. They all appear to be students. They appear to be about the right age to be students at 7th to 12th grade at Woodlands. On Monday, the 12/5, from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., that's right in, 8 o'clock is when people are supposed to be at school. There were 0 pedestrian trips. So of course, the season of the year, it's 28 degrees out. Everybody who can get a ride can, so I was able, at least from my observations, to confirm that there aren't a lot of pedestrians, and I didn't count the number of cars, but there weren't a lot of, there's not huge snarls of traffic going up and down that street and around that corner. There'll be a car or two, and then a minute or two will pass and another car or two. So I think that I've kind of confirmed in my mind that the experts' opinion is right. We need to admit Tracy Mayers. Can you, yeah.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at. What we did at the last meeting was to say, okay, do we want to do anything more? Do we want to, so all the actions by the town are done. The only thing that we could do if we wanted to is get together with the church and the golf course and widen the road and bring it all up to code and declare it a road and turn over maintenance of the road to the town. But, and any sidewalk, whoever's property side it's on, is still their requirement. I don't know if we want to take that action or not. We don't have anything down there now. We used to have the Morton House at the end of the road. We have nothing. We could just leave it alone and there'll be a sidewalk. That's my opinion, but what do other people think? Mr. Simon.
Oh, thank you. When I first moved to this town, I lived on top of Juniper Hill, so I'm very familiar with that area. That road, yes, in cold weather, you might not get a lot of kids walking that, going into the facility that way. In warm weather, a lot of kids, well, a lot, but far more than 8, use that to get onto campus. So that it is used in warm weather. The kids do walk that way. The other point is that getting that road to town standards, I don't think it's necessary, nor do I think a metropolis will be willing to pay that type of money because it really isn't necessary. If you have the road, oh, let me turn on my phone. Wait a minute, let me turn. Sorry about that. If you have a paved road, it's sufficient. 18 feet should be sufficient for that, and the sidewalk. And that sidewalk, I would recommend should be on Metropolis side, not unless the school board could take on the responsibility of cleaning the snow off of that area.
Maintaining sidewalk and insurance for if
That's
anything
right.
happens.
So I think you should, that sidewalk should be a Metropolis part. And in general, this whole thing came about because when a developer comes in and have their property, we required sidewalks. That's why over the last several years, we got over 7 miles of sidewalks all through the town because the developers put it in and we got grants. So the planning board position, at least my position was, if you could develop that, you should do the same as we do, require everyone else to put in the sidewalk. And I don't think that cost of maintenance should fall on the school. It should fall on Metropolis. So the sidewalk should be on Metropolis side for maintenance and liability, as you just indicated. The other thing that you can do is that when they're widening that road, a possibility is to at the entrance of the school facility, just pave that maybe 6 feet or so, the first 6 to 8 feet. And what you would create is what you call a hammerhead. So cars that'll come in, they'll go and they're able to make that turn, go a few feet into our entrance, and we make sure that the chain is back maybe 10 to 12 feet. So you have the hammerhead, so they come in and they could go in, back out, and come straight out. So that's another option.
They're not paving all the way down there though, are they?
They're paving to a point 20 feet beyond the new driveway that they're installing. So.
Okay,
no, they're not
fine. So
paving.
you could, while they're at it, you tell them, the cost that just speak to Metropolis. Say, hey, when you're doing it, why don't you make, they'll come in 6 to 8 feet in our driveway so people can make a hammerhead. I'm quite sure they'll agree to that.
Okay. So.
I mean,
ask
there's
about hammers.
practically
Okay.
a very small incremental cost on their part.
Good turnaround. All right, that's that. Tracy Mears.
I'm here, sorry, just had to unmute. I wanted to agree with Mr. Simon in that there are more children, I think, that walk in the summer, but then also more children that walk in the evening than that, or after school than that walk in the morning. But I would also say I agree with the hammerhead idea that actually is a good idea. I'm wondering if there's an actionable item around this, David, or are you just giving us an update on what happened recently?
An actual item, meaning I've got about a page worth of the whole saga in the agenda.
Is there another opportunity to give input to the town, or is that window closed?
I don't know if there's still a drainage permit in process or not. I know they took care of the steep slopes thing on the night of that meeting, okay? So there could, I can ask Garrett.
So, I mean, to Tracy's point, I think she's wondering if this conversation is informative, but no action can be taken, therefore we should.
Right, so if our only action is we can declare it, we can work on the application process to declare the road or not do anything at all, and those are our options because there's no process going. Or is there still a process we can piggyback off of?
Yes.
Is there a drainage?
I am not in favor of making it an official road at this time.
Here, okay. Neither am I.
Neither am I.
Is there anyone here who's in favor of making this thing an official road?
Official what?
A public road.
Oh, no.
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 It's a waste of
Okay.
money.
All right, so Hammerhead is the only thing, and that will depend upon whether there's a process or not. And I will ask Garrett Duquesne.
By the way, I think more kids cut through Jackson than that.
Right. If you up the hill, you go through Jackson.
They're doing it to, yeah. And
No, it's only if you're coming up from down below.
Most people who live over there have the right to be on the bus, so it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then moving on. At this point, I think we're into just projects, so I think we should do our slideshow. So there's been a little bit of work on various projects in the district, and so just start up at the top of the first JPEG that you've got. and we'll just talk through it. You wanna, so the three major things are the high
Yep,
view
that's a high view,
roof
flashing,
process,
yep.
and then go.
Yep, here we go. We've got some, that's the flashing over at Highview as part of the roof project. That's some of the flashing that goes around the building, upper and lower roofing.
That's a TPO roof?
What was that, sir?
Is that a TPO roof?
Mr. Seba?
Fred, can you hear us? Admit Fred Seba. Oh.
Okay,
I kicked
move
out.
on.
Should there be gutters?
It looks like one. Okay.
This is
I
Mike.
believe it is.
It's no, actually it's an SPS roof.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, okay,
Continue.
next slide.
Sorry, before we move on, can you explain the TPO or SPF so that people who are not?
It's thermoplastic aluminum. That's the TPO, and that's one. Other one, SBS, is styrene, butadiene, styrene. So that's all chemical terms, but basically, it's a membrane that you could put over. It's a membrane. At least I know the TPO is a membrane, and it's a membrane that you put over the roof. Unlike the traditional roof where you have the rolls, you roll down. Each roll might be, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet. These come in 12-foot rolls, and you just lay them down, and they actually less expensive, and they still come with a 20-year warranty. So,
And you have to do things with the fasteners so that no nails come up and puncture them, or?
they're perfect. I can tell you, I'm on the board here, and we just put on 2 TPO roofs on our building, and I was the chair of the roofing committee. That's why I'm familiar with that.
Okay.
Plus, I work for GAF, who invented it. So
there you
so I'm
go.
familiar with the roof. That's why I asked. But it's a good roof, either one. SPS roofs, they're both good roofs.
Okay. Tracy, does that answer your question?
Yes, I just want to make sure, there's people on the call like me who are not roofers or involved in roof committees. And I just want to make sure, like you said, it's a good roof and that there's a good warranty for the future, but also people may watch the video later and want to understand exactly what we're talking about. So that's why I asked. Thank you.
Yeah, good. So just as simpler in layman term, it's a membrane that you put over. And that's probably the easiest non-chemical way of explaining.
Okay.
Oh, that was the fence ECP.
This is a before picture.
That was the before picture. That's one of the perimeters there that was replaced.
That is the after.
There you go.
Okay. Continue.
These are some pictures of the roof up at Highview. It's covered with snow the last couple of days. The roof is virtually finished. We're waiting for about 24 feet of
flashing.
The flashing on the side. They used a little more than anticipated on some of the cuts on the lower levels, and they're waiting for the materials to come in. Should be in within 2 to 3 weeks, I'm told.
So stupid question, where does the snow melt go?
The snow melt goes down to the roof drains. It's a built up roof and it's pitched so that it flows to drains and it goes down and out.
Okay.
There's a bunch of pictures of the roof up there. You can actually see one of the drains right there. The roof is actually built up and it's pitched to flow into the different drains that are on the roof. Much better than flat roof systems that used to be around.
How thick are the panels, the insulation panels that was applied?
What was that, sir?
The pitch to roof, you use those panels.
Yeah, foam, yep.
Yeah, but how thick were they?
They varied. There was, they went from 2 inches to 6 inches, maybe 8 inches. Sometimes they used 2 pieces.
Okay,
depending on-
good.
They had, they built it up pretty good in some of the areas.
Mhm.
And that's more of the flashing that you see from the sides.
Right, I don't have the picture here, the time that I, yeah, the time that I came out before when they had the crane out there and they were lifting everything, they put that big layer down before the membrane went on top.
Yeah, they had an extra layer, yeah.
And yeah, so we seem to have gotten some things in this first year of the ECP fence,
Yeah,
it was
fence,
pretty
yeah.
extensive.
Yeah.
There's the water tower back there, yeah. the
So
old-
do you want to hold and finish talking about Hy-Vee or move on with the slideshow?
I think we should go through the slideshow so we have pictures, then we'll go back to the agenda and then you'll be able to remember what was in the pictures.
This is some pictures of the brickwork around the parapet, around the mansion, replacing some of the stonework.
That's the one spot that was still in need of attention, and everything else that I could see looked fairly decent.
Yeah, that was the one lower roof that they still have to address. 90% done, that's the one section. They would have finished last week, but the weather put a damper on that.
We're back to, yeah. Yeah, it's not following. Oh, we probably have oldest and newest versus
Oh, yeah,
sorting by the names. I carefully named everything so it would all work together, but we don't have it sorted that way. Okay.
That's a view from up on the hill you got there.
Right.
Yeah.
There we go.
More
There's the
more
west
pictures.
side, from the west side of the mansion.
Yep.
There's a retaining wall.
You could actually see where it was in the foreground there.
Right. And there's some attempts with concrete blocks further over to retain things, but yeah, I'll keep going. We're looking at the masonry. There.
Yeah, you can see pretty clearly the different new courses.
And from a distance. You're looking from the woodland side.
Yeah, that's more of the brickwork, yeah.
The next thing that's going to happen, and everywhere
Yeah,
on the
here.
back is the superintendent's wing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they're actually doing the abatement, well, on the roof. The abatement contractors have to remove some of the asbestos that's on the roof and in the flashing materials.
Okay.
And then the roofers are set to follow them. They won't be here for the next few days because of the weather.
Mhm.
But I'm told they have about 3 days or so for the abatement contractors to finish, and then the roofers will be right behind them.
Okay.
And where that concrete work is, none of that that's not involved in this project, or none of that needs to be repaired, or?
You mean like the pseudo Gothic arches there, or? Okay.
That wasn't part of the project, no.
And when they finish with all this, is that if for all the asbestos after this abatement is done, if you could say that building is asbestos free?
No, that's just for the
No.
building area, you know, that building's
That would be neat.
50 years old.
I would say for all that money we're spending.
That sounded good.
That's it for the picture.
That's it?
That's it for
Okay.
pictures, okay.
So now, great. So now we have pictures in our head of the work that has actually been going on. We do this big paper chase in these meetings forever and forever, but things are actually happening out there in the real world as a result of our efforts here. Okay, so let's just run down the line.
Just gonna point out, you did miss part of page 6 too. I don't know if that was on purpose, or if we're gonna come back to that.
Okay, the RJ Bailey Auditorium.
Yeah,
We don't have any pictures of anything because,
just so we go back to it, that's fine.
sure, you want to pick it up as
Okay.
much in the auditorium on
Okay,
page
yeah.
6?
Let's see, the problems that were covered by phase 1, roof leaks, plaster and paint. The broken seats with no replacement parts, those were removed over the summer. As was the carpeting, so right now we have a clean slate. We were scheduled to have a meeting this week with, we have some mock-up seats and some fabric. It was canceled this week. It's because of
Illness.
illness.
Like 2 months.
It's actually scheduled for next week. Again, next Friday, I believe, the 22nd.
Okay, and I believe 1 or 2 parents, or I think Julie had said, did you have that in? That she was gonna be involved, and I.
Correct.
Yes, Julie is one of the people.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure they
Yeah,
weren't
no, we're on the
actually
same page, everybody.
I'm gonna pin you down on it now. So, okay.
Julie, do you want to say anything?
I'm here. I'm invited to the meeting and I'm all set for next week, Thursday. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
And then you can submit to NYSED, and then once they approve, then you can go ahead with your construction. Go ahead.
Correct. Okay, so the asbestos cleanup was completed over the summer. The seats, the tile, and the carpets were removed. Let's see, it's going. So we're going to be meeting with the architects, the committee here, and the principal, and choosing the types of seats and the different fabrics. That's the next step. That's what's supposed to happen today. It'll happen next week, hopefully, unless we have another bout of illness for some of the planners. Let's see what else we had. I guess I'll continue. We had our first snow event. The first plowable snowfall of the year was Sunday into Monday. School opened with no major problems. We also had a successful test of our transportation weather emergency communications the other day. You might have gotten on a couple of your phones, whether you choose
There
text
were at least
messages or
27
emails or
responses.
both.
Yeah, actually, you were tracking that, weren't you?
Yeah, so far, transportation informed me that they have received 27 updates from parents with updated contact information. They've updated that. There still seems to be some parents that haven't provided updated information, and we know they're not reachable. So I think transportation is going to work with IT to see if there's anything they can do there. But unfortunately, not everyone is, I guess, checking their notifications and letting us know when they're not receiving them, unfortunately. So at least we got some additional ones, but I wish more people would let us know.
Okay, thank you. The plowing, just curious, we are responsible for plowing here on the Woodlands campus.
Yes.
We plow from gate to gate, or where do we plow? How far are we responsible for plowing?
We got, when it's bad, we kind of start at Pack Capone Road because we want to get our buses in. It's kind of a gray area, but we plow in this development, the parking lots.
So East Hartsdale Avenue to the gate out here to
Nobody, Pack Capone is a private road. If the development got there before us, they would probably come in, but they don't care. They would just turn it. We come right down the road, we drop the plow, and we come out the other side.
Gotcha.
And then we hit everything in between, whether it's the sidewalks in front of the schools, the mansion, any parking lot. We have to make sure that.
Do we still have at one point we changed from having, I'm sorry, our own supplier of salt versus not, just curious.
We do have a supply.
Or
of
whatever
salt.
the method is we use, okay.
Yeah, we have back behind the mansion, we have a stockpile that's covered.
Okay. Ask you later.
That's what the salt igloo is for, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm not trying to, all right, so on to the project.
All right, that's a major project. So
do we want a BBS to come in at this point, or you want to?
I'll take care of the water lines and the hydrants.
Okay.
The survey has been finished. I haven't heard of the report. Should be, I don't know if BBS has received it yet, but I know that it should be any day because they finished a couple of weeks ago. And so now the next part of the process will continue.
Okay.
All right.
Can we scroll in the agenda to match the comments?
Yes. So we're on,
Yeah, let's see, 10. Yeah.
BBS, do you have anything to add?
I do not know.
Okay, phase one.
All right, phase one, let's see, BBS submitted the project to SED, December 21 approved, and July 18, 2022. For the BBS, the bid process is complete, board have approved the contracts. Highview third grade wing roof canopy is complete.
That's what we looked at in the pictures?
Yep, additional metal flashing is on order and should be installed probably middle of January, I would
I
say.
think it's January, not December now?
Yeah, I would say sometime in January.
Okay.
That's the last 24 feet that we're talking about.
Okay.
ECP director's request, the ECP bathroom work has been delayed until the summer of 23. There's just too many kids, too much sickness going around to have just one bathroom. So the decision was made to postpone that until after this school gets out. Let's see, the Highview gym upstairs corridor windows request for fireproof safety glass was a change order for $49,000 for 2 panels or $90,000 for the 5 panels. The board decided to go with the original proposal of installing the fireproof sheetrock. The lower hallway mural was temporarily removed, and that will be restored by our staff when the work is completed. The taping's done down there, and after it's painted and the contractor's finished, our guys are going to reinstall the murals in the lower hallway. RJ,
Hands raised.
Oh. Go ahead, Gabriella.
Hi, quick question on that. I was in the gym yesterday. My son has basketball practice there. The person who's running the basketball league let us know that we cannot, unless he finds another gym, which he's going to reach out to Mr. McCoy. We couldn't use the Highview gym next Wednesday because they're going to be working on the items that you just mentioned. My question is this, I'm just concerned classes are still going to be going on next week. So are they really looking to start, or are they just, is there some prep work that needs to happen so the work can be done during the break?
Oh, no, the contractors have actually been working, they're actually working at the building right now. They work after school.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
what the problem is. And what they do is before, at the end of the night, they clean up everything. They board up everything. So you might see that they temporarily board up everything so nobody could peek in from upstairs or get their hands caught in anything sharp. That's been the process. And they needed probably another week and a half to finish. That's why I reached out to see if they could, since I guess one night next week, they weren't gonna have any practice anyway. So I said, I hate to do this, but just wait in order to get the project moving, because the gym, it's constantly used by either basketball or soccer starting the beginning of the year.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Bailey unit ventilators have been ordered. They should arrive early January. I believe that's what they're holding to that schedule still.
Okay.
The Woodlands High School, Middle School vestibule, warrants $51,876 of smart funds were approved on May 17th of 22. The mansion roof was 1.6 million, SED approved last year and funding now available. The security vestibule and mansion roof projects were combined for bidding. The security vestibule is probably going to start around March 1st now. They were waiting for the storefront materials. It took longer than they proposed, but that's looks like that time frame is hopefully going to stick this time.
Just in time for the play, which is so the question is, what do we want to do in terms of blackout dates, or do we need an alternative way to get into the auditorium? right? So now it's March 1st, and then the weekend that goes through March 19th, you've got the, like, Thursday, Friday,
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday.
Yep, so there is an alternate plan to, walk down to the other side and get in through the side of the auditorium or walk around the side of the building for the students. And obviously, we didn't want to do that for longer than we had to, especially in the winter.
So is your plan to wait and to have blackout dates and wait till the 20th, or is your plan to have people?
Yeah,
walk
there's no blackout dates yet. We haven't got to that part. Now that we just got to finalize that the project is gonna be somewhere around March, we might want to delay it or.
So the decision has, all right, so who makes the decision? We talk the principal or?
Building principal, transportation, myself probably.
It might be that they don't get delivered till March 19th, so maybe.
Yeah, so then the problem
Yeah.
will go away by itself.
And then you
right?
have that conversation.
Then we'll have that conversation when the material
arrives.
is ready to start. Okay. Let's see, the masonry work on the mansion is nearly complete, just with the exception of that one section.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Gabriella?
Yes. Is that Gabriella? She's,
Or maybe
both-
Tracy's
muted.
They both.
Both Tracy and
Tracy.
Gabriella are muted.
I
Gabriella.
was talking, but
raise her hand first. Okay, go ahead, Tracy.
Tracy.
I was talking, but you called in Gabriella, so I wanted to give her an opportunity.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, can you guys repeat that? Just trying to get the kids up to bed. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, we were talking about whether we needed blackout dates for construction, because now it looks like we're gonna put that security vestibule to keep everybody safe right in front of the Woodlands Auditorium, just as we're about to have the spring musical. So either you say, okay, it's nice that you got the materials, but let's wait till after the 19th and go forward, or you say, let's find another way into the auditorium.
Geez, that's a tough one.
So we'll go to the principal and see what the principal has to say about it. But I wanted to raise it so that, nobody forgets. Okay,
Sorry, that's a tough one. I'm thinking. Sorry, come back to me, David.
all right, Tracy, what do you think?
Hi, so thank you for talking about it, so no one forgets. I think it's super important. But I wanted to address the high school gym area. We had talked several times about the bathrooms. And I keep hearing about the students sitting on the sinks, and of course, that's an issue. But I want to know what is going to be done with that.
Tracy, do you want to wait till we get through to the
Woodland
projects?
projects?
It's further down in the agenda.
But two people are talking at the same time, I can't hear.
Can we come back to this?
Yes, I will bring up my point later. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so
So we're talking about the bus loading and unloading workaround has been planned to allow the construction at Woodlands during the year. The vestibule construction, as we're speaking about now, has been delayed pending delivery of storefront materials, now expected in March. Perfect time for the spring musical.
right.
So we're gonna have to have a discussion on that and how we're gonna proceed. We're talking about blackout dates or have an alternate, plan for the auditorium entry. Let's see, for the mansion, 3 million for admin reoccupation is possible phase 2 project. ECP would require 0.5 million after insurance.
We had an incident, I think before you got here, we had a flooding incident. We used to have these ECP classrooms sitting at the flat roof portion of the mansion.
Where the pool is, yes.
Yeah, where the pool is, and it was covered over, and then all this water came down, and then they ended up ripping out everything, but I don't know that there's ever an insurance claim made for all that flooding. And but there was a high level estimate on that, and that after the amount that you would get for the insurance on the damage, it cost you another $500,000 to get to the point where you could, where the administration, well, There's getting the administration in, which requires that you do that you make sure that there is no problem with the ventilation. You get the ventilation up to current standards. That's the 3 million. And then the 0.5 million is for the side that has the ECP restoration, put the kids back in.
Where the floor was.
The floor
they covered the
was, yeah, I think there's one
pool. It's now
classroom that
been
wasn't
removed.
affected over by the fireplace, but the rest of it, yeah.
And this 3 million includes everything, air quality issues, which is, I guess the ventilation that we're doing is included in, we're including the mansion. It
Yes,
includes everything top to bottom to have it ready to go.
that's what the estimate was from the.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry, and you said we don't know if a claim was made. Did we find out for next meeting if the claim was made? Just in case there's a time frame on the,
I guess there was a partial claim made, but it was just, you know, it was just like water damage, like they took the floor away. And I don't know, it wasn't a massive claim, I guess. It was just removing some plywood and stuff.
To remove damaged flooring.
so David, when you said the ECP restoration will require 0.5 million after the insurance, were you deducting a certain amount?
Yes, I was deducting a certain amount, so Lisa, and yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
So can we just follow up on that claim?
Yeah, I didn't see any claims that nobody's inquired from the state like they normally would on the other claims, so I would believe that there wasn't a claim on that. I don't believe there was a claim for that part of it.
Yeah, I just don't know if there'd be like a time frame, you know, claim by X date or
Right.
you're out of luck.
Yes.
And that was how many years ago now?
Mhm.
3 or
Expired, okay.
Well, the flood, no.
No, the
It was
flood is
more
not,
recent than.
That was
the
more-
flood happened while after we evacuated.
Couple
It's been
years.
a year or,
21, I think.
yeah,
Okay,
2021.
2021. Okay, yeah, because they haven't. I get calls from all claims. What's the status of this one? That one's
Right,
never even raised.
okay.
All right, let's talk about some of the smaller projects here. We saw the fence was replaced on the east side of the playground at the ECP main building. Just today, we had a hot water radiator bleeder valve leak. A bleeder valve is on a hot water system. It's designed to get air to allow the water to move through the pipes. It just decided to crack itself open and start spraying out, and 18 to 20 gallons of water probably leaked out and started to come into the next room where there was a class going on. Luckily, we got it in 15 minutes or so.
So thinking of that and thinking of the holiday break, will someone be going into each building every day over the break or to? make sure
Not every
something
day
is-
though. We do building checks though. We do building checks on the weekends, and actually over the break we have to work 2 days. So there will be workers here.
Okay, just because, I mean, like next week, I think we're in the 20s.
Oh yeah, when it gets
So-
really frigid, we do with building checks more frequently.
Okay.
Yeah, just not the fact that the trees could come down on the wires and turn the power off, but yeah, the boilers, just the pipes freezing, thawing and leaking, yes.
Okay.
Let's see.
And then obviously, sorry, in the same theme of we're closed for over a week. You go back in 5 AM or whatever, you guys turn on the faucets, let the water run through because it's been sitting for all that, right? Standard procedure?
Standard procedure, when the guys come in for a building check on the weekends, they run the water.
Okay.
Just to get everything moving, especially when it's cold out.
Because it'll freeze.
Okay.
It's just.
Well, also just to flush the system with the.
It's a good
the
practice.
Drinking water and cooking water is what I'm thinking.
Even if it were warmer, you'd do that.
Right.
But-
Yes.
But in the cold.
I just like to hear it's going to happen.
Yep.
Jackson, let's see.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
We do, Katie.
Katie?
I'm just curious about the when you pay for the repairs for the hot water radiator, and I see in the next thing, LF Jackson, does that come out of like your annual budget or might it come from the repair reserve?
Yes, actually today our maintenance mechanic, we fixed this one ourselves today.
It's a regular budget.
Regular budget, yes. We do have HVAC contractors, electricians, you know, to come in and service the boilers if something happens, the electrical work, it's out of our scope, where they're changing breakers and light poles and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff I'm trying to do more in-house to save some funds.
And current vetting process is that you do a bid, you know, for the start of the contract, and then whatever happens, as long as it's within budget, within the authorized amount, it just comes out of that budget. Now, I don't know if the audit,
I was gonna say,
the state auditors have some other ideas, but no, that's how it's done in most school districts that I know about.
Yep, and we have like a plumbing contractor, if something backs up out of the scope of our regular snake, and we need something different done. We have HVAC. Okay, let's see, at Jackson, last week, we had 2 refrigerators were serviced, reach-ins, they're good sized ones, probably 6 feet wide.
That's not on the list, this is.
Yeah, that wasn't on the list, that's an addition. One wasn't keeping temperature, and one had a door alarm sensor that was malfunctioning, that was serviced, and both units are back online. The kitchen hoods and the ductwork were cleaned at Jackson. Some stonework around the large planter in front of the building has been repaired. We're seeking a $25,000 budget code transfer to resolve some street light issues on the Warburg campus, including Woodlands Middle School, High School. We've talked about down by the pond. That one hadn't worked in 15 or 17 years, I'm told, and the poles on the other side of Jackson haven't worked in quite a few years also, on the other side of the building, on the community
What, you're
side.
rewiring all the way underground?
Well, we have one light that works on the other side down on the end. We could hopefully we could tap off of that
And jump in,
runs
okay.
rather than go across the parking lot and create more problems than we want to hope for. High view, the kitchen hoods and ductwork were cleaned.
Could I ask a question about the light before
Yes,
you
sir.
move? In those lights, have you ever looked at using solar-driven lights so you don't have to do any additional wiring? I mean, I don't know what the cost comparison.
Working in winter?
You would need a big battery station though. I don't know what the cost would be involved. Yeah.
Yeah, but but you could get lights that are operated by solar panels. Regeneron, right here in the town, the entire parking lot, everything is on these types of solar. I don't know the cost.
We have the windmill.
We have the one windmill, and I know that hasn't worked in a couple of years. I just recently.
But the solar panel is already also part of that.
Yeah,
right?
I recently got a quote. It's almost $3,000 to operate the battery pack for that one light.
Okay.
So it is expensive.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we should at least evaluate what's the cost of getting a regular light and running all the wires versus abandoning those wires and get a solar panel light post. That's all I'm saying. I don't know the cost. I don't know what it costs to run the wires. I don't know, but I think that's something we should at least investigate.
Solar versus conventional
Yeah.
lighting. Well, I mean, you're gonna go LED regardless, but power source.
Yep. Okay.
Source.
Let's see, high view, the kitchen hoods and the ductwork were cleaned. The proposed third degree windows keep coming up. We had the quote for $57,000 quite a few years ago that didn't meet materials, hurricane standards, specs. The current vendor is unresponsive. So I reached out to BBS for some help on this project to rescope and to bid out on the project. So hopefully we could put that out for bid.
I see Fred nodding.
Well,
Okay.
At what point would
We'll
we,
start working on that.
if
Yep.
it's going out to bid and it's much more than this, would that come back to us?
You need to know how much it costs.
Right, okay.
And then we've got all that money sitting in the repair reserve
And the
fund.
repair and
So we need to know how.
So
it's
the question is, then you
classified,
have to move the money, right?
or how it would be classified.
Yeah.
It might be a replacement. That's
Yes,
my
it
guess.
will be, and then you have to move money out of the repair reserve into,
Okay.
right, to make it work.
Ashley's-
Mr. Pineda.
Thank you. Just a question on that. For BBS, what do you think is the time frame for actually going out to bid on that one? Because it's been sitting for a while.
Well, I think, we're going to come up, we're going to take a look at them, we're going to specify them, and then we'll have to get a price from a vendor. And then we'll talk to you guys about what the process is you want to follow. If you want to go up to SED, then we'll have to put the packages together and wait for SED to approve it. And then we'll go out to bid. The lead time on windows is pretty long right now. It's probably 4 months. Probably 4 months right now, and it's going to get worse as we start to get into the spring. So I don't know. I'm not sure, actually, if the district decides they don't want to go up to SED because the dollar amount is low enough and you're okay doing it that way, then it'll speed the process up. So I think once we have a chance to look at it and scope it out and figure out what it's worth, then we'll come back to you and make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the only other thing I want to add to that, Fred, this is Mike, is that in the BCS report, there was a line item for the window replacement at that school, and it was in 2021 at a little over $2 million.
But that was for the whole building, Mike.
That's for the whole building, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Just to give you an idea what the scope and scale of this project would be.
We're just talking about the third grade wing windows.
Yeah. So 11 or 12 rooms, I believe.
It's tough.
Those
Like,
that
it's
don't
not
have
gonna be cheap.
windows that open, and when they open.
We know 57K didn't make it, so.
Let's see what else we have here. Bailey, the kitchen hoods and ductwork were cleaned. Hopefully. Oh, sorry, Tracy.
It's okay. Thank you, Ashley, for addressing the fact that this has been in the queue for a very long time. I'm gonna try to add on to that I think that this also becomes a safety issue. So I don't know how and where we can prioritize this, and maybe if the answer is not the plan as it is because of the cost, or as you said, the time period, but maybe some other alternate option for that area. And I guess it can be dealt with maybe in Safety and Security Committee or as an executive session item because it is a safety concern. But I do think it needs to be prioritized, and I don't want us just glossing over it because I do think it may become an issue. And I'm specifically talking about the third grade windows.
Yeah, they don't have the windows that open, and for ventilation, they open the doors, and it's
not safe.
It's not a good idea.
Campus, right.
Anything else, Tracy?
I want to make sure you guys look at this. That's it. Thank you.
We do need to say though that the ventilators are going to work, those automatic systems.
Yes.
So maybe it's also just a protocol issue.
No, it won't work.
No.
Okay. We need to do something.
In the meantime, in the meantime.
Okay, so both leaky boiler room vacuum pumps have been rebuilt and reinstalled. The new gym wall pads cost significantly higher than was originally estimated. I spoke with Mr. McCoy last week, and he's seeking an alternate vendor. So hopefully next couple months we'll have a different vendor to come in with hopefully a friendlier number.
Okay.
Curbs and sidewalks to reduce the concrete area. That's probably going to happen in the spring. Woodlands, the kitchen hoods and ductwork were also cleaned. We filled some of the corridor floor tile cracks in the breezeway and in between the commons and first floor classrooms. We're actually doing some of that now in the old guidance suites, like the room 115 that has a lot of the floor outlets that had been abandoned, some holes in the floor and some brass tripping hazards. Been working on that. And we're also, this is a continuation with seeking the 25,000 budget code transfer to resolve the street lighting issues on the Warburg campuses. That was at Woodlands, the middle high school, and LF Jackson. Let's see, the mansion.
Wait, Tracy, this is your time. Oh, wait, we have questions.
Ashley's got his hand up, and Katie.
Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you. On Bailey, what's the latest update with the Legionella testing and the strategy with the chlorination? Is that actually working?
Oh, yes, it seems to be working good. We chlorinated a couple of weeks ago, and I had a second Legionella test done. Those tests will be out probably in another week and a half, probably. It takes another week, probably a week and a half. It takes 2 weeks for them to do the culture for it to come back. And that was tested a week and a half ago, I'd say.
Okay. And then the second thing is, can we, if we've moved on from this page, can we scroll down in the agenda so the community can see where we're at? Thank you.
And we're on Woodland.
Yeah, we're.
Unless Katie has something.
Yeah,
Let's see what Katie has to say. Katie.
Hi, mine is about Woodlands too. Another parent asked me this, and even though I've been on this committee, I wasn't 100% sure what to say. So I think it's going to be taken care of in the EPC work. But the question was, when we were at the middle school concert a week ago, the auditorium it's winter and it's hot. It's warmer in that room than in the lobby, and it doesn't seem like air is circulating unless you have the big, as my husband likes to call it, the B-52 bomber fans going. So is there work? Is it in the EPC, like air handlers or?
Air handlers are in the project.
How do they address the temperature in the auditorium?
Yeah, actually, Anthony, the head custodian, was just up there during the week, and he actually made an adjustment on there. And when he came in the morning after the weekend, it was 74.5, which was a big improvement rather than the 80 or something it typically normally would be.
As part of the energy performance contract, we're going to do two things. We're going to fix the outdoor air intakes and the dampers, because right now they're just chocked in a fixed position. And we're going to redo the controls on that. And the controls should take care of the overheating issue. So between those two, it should make that auditorium much more comfortable.
Okay, and that is part of the EPC work that's going to start in the spring?
Yes, once we get SED approval, hopefully this spring, if not the summer, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
And if it doesn't, we have backup funds. Okay.
Tracy has her hand up.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Tracy.
I'm here. Excuse me, I just had to unmute. So I wanted to talk about the gym. Two things. One is the bathrooms. I think you guys have heard me talk about that and many other people. So I want to answer on what's happening with that, if anything. And then the second thing is that whole area of the gym. It looks like there was maybe a new paint job, but I'm wondering how else can that area be made to look nice without, any sort of major construction. For example, the I don't know if they're plastic or some sort of a rubber material of the bottom of the wall. That's like coming off. It looks very run down. Little things like changing that make it look nice. I do see sometimes a new paint job, which is nice, but I'm wondering about making that area look presentable. We have public coming in using the weight room. We also have other teams coming in frequently using those bathrooms, and it just looks very run down. It's not even unclean or uncared for. It looks more like the presentation just doesn't, like someone didn't care to put in time to the presentation. I'm wondering, are you guys looking at that facilities wise and what can be done that's not expensive?
Yeah, I'd like to try to start a procedure of replacing like 1 or 2 bathrooms a year.
Mhm.
Like, you know, those will be probably, we have a track meet, we have this beautiful gym. You come in to see our facility and you walk into these bathrooms and it doesn't belong anywhere near that.
We have public voting there at least once a year.
Correct. So what I'd like to try to maybe do is, if I could, you know, have over the summer, maybe if I could do those 2 bathrooms, just to refurbish them. You know, even if we kept the, tile halfway up the wall, some new fixtures and, the new partitions to make it look presentable. I think, you put a facelift on it.
And like we've spoken at previous meetings, when you're talking about new fixtures, sinks that the kids cannot sit on.
Yeah, something that's, not, seating friendly.
Move the mirrors.
Well, facelift sounds wonderful, but what about like, photos of, kids in motion at games, or just, I don't even know what to call that. I don't know if it's decor, I need some out of the box thinking on how to make.
You mean like the thing that we did with the printers, where we had all those giant portraits of the kids, except we had them on the external walls, so then the weather came in and did bad things to them. I suppose you could do something like that temporarily on the inside. I don't know. I don't know the maintenance.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think you're gonna damage the paint.
Yeah, okay.
Again, I'm wondering, is anybody thinking about that? Number one, and then number two, what is your time frame plan for these 1-2 bathrooms a year? Are you talking about fall of 2023? When are you going to start working on those bathrooms at the gym?
Oh, I'd like to try to do a couple like over the summer, like at least those 2.
So summer of 2023.
Yep, summer of like this summer. Yeah, we close them down for a month, have a company come in and bring those things back to life. But that, then it comes down to funding. We have some money in the reserve now. It does take money to do these things.
So what normally happens is there's leftover money and it goes to asbestos removal, right? So then a couple of classrooms here, a couple of classrooms at each building.
Yeah.
They pull more asbestos tile out of the schools, and that's what we use our leftover money for.
And what about the cheaper things like the molding at the bottom of the
coatings along the walls? Yeah, that's something that I'd like to, just something simple like that. It's
cosmetic. Those are cosmetic things.
Yeah, and it just looks like, okay, wow, it looks like this is falling off. It's been here for 30 years.
It's one of the many things.
It's like when you have a break, just you run down the hall and you just touch up the pencil marks or the food or whatever is on the wall. And
I'm looking at that Wise 50-year celebration and looking at the Wise room and going, this needs a coat of paint. Okay.
So, Tracy, you're talking about what Steve's mentioned before, and that's that curb appeal, in addition to those facilities items, and that curb appeal as far as putting up, some schools like basically do huge, I don't know how they do it, but they like blow up pictures of their kids and they throw them on the gym or on the locker room walls or those hallways. That's kind of also what you're talking about, which probably wouldn't be facilities per se, unless it's something that the art department might do that would impact, and you guys would have to talk about what kind of paint. I know I've thrown out there, I don't want to throw anyone, I've thrown out the idea of like painting falcon wings, how people pose in front of things out there in the athletic hallway, to help with that curb appeal. But I don't know, that's Mr. Puglisi per se, because that decor is, I don't think in your remit. I could be wrong, but it's great you're mentioning it publicly, and to know that.
I want to mention it publicly.
Because we're also talking about painting another mural in the building as part of another celebration. They obviously will need to liaise with you to know what will work on the walls, what's able to be cleaned easily, blah, 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 blah.
Something that'll last with a good finish, so like somebody's gonna put all this time and effort into it. You wanna make sure it's around for 15 or 20 years before another class has to touch it up.
Yeah.
I want to mention it publicly, and I want to mention it in front of Mr. Puglisi is the only administrator here, but you're an administrator. So you go to administrative meetings, bring it up. It's curb appeal. Our students are there. our community members come in there, our visiting teams come there. Something, I mean, even if it's just like you said, I love the Falcon Wings idea. That's a great idea. Even if it's painting, but you know, these ideas have to start happening. We've been talking about them for a while.
Coving.
Thank you.
Paint. Mansion. Okay, we were at the, anybody got something up? We were at the mansion, on the 12/13, we had a boiler malfunction that set off the, carbon monoxide, alarm. The fire department was responded. The boiler was repaired and the heat is on. Bus garage, repaving an electric vehicle charging station and long-term plan. Need a funding source for pilot programs. Other districts have had source with lobbying for funding rather than grant applications, from what I've been reading about.
Okay.
That's
So that's state and federal.
yeah, just how we get the track or the auditorium. A lot of these districts have.
So I'll just mention there's 5 board members on the call, or there were at one point. Our lobbying season is coming up and we're already starting
Correct.
to get our information about what different organizations will help us lobby for as a group, but we're gonna have that opportunity for at least a few of us to meet with legislators. So I'm just planting the seed to follow up on that point, Mr. Pugliese.
Hey, Tracy. Okay.
You want to take over for phase 2?
So phase 2 is on the horizon. So once we have locked down what an energy performance contract is, which means probably that we get to this vote on the 17th, mark your calendars, then we go back to phase 2, and the administration is supposed to make a formal proposal on this. The things that we have come to a conclusion that we want to see in this. Priorities include ventilation, building envelopes, BCS priority 1 and 2 items. You know, we prioritized all our building condition survey stuff and the things that are up at the top, and ECP classrooms. And the one place that's a little crowded is Lee F. Jackson, because we evacuated all those ECP students there. There are some odd things that had to be done. Where people used to have offices and don't, and you know. So we want to we want a solution to that, whatever that solution may be, and that's going to go in our 5-year plan too. I think.
And that building is bursting at the seams right now.
Yeah, and we would require this phase 2 might require a bond proposition, and we should seek out additional funding sources beyond that. So if we're building up reserves in other ways, and we can make the size of the project bigger than its bond, we should do that. If we could get any other source of aid, we should go after that. Scope of the project should take the bond vote history into account. We had that disastrous attempt at a very large bond several years ago. We don't want a repeat of that. Cost could be partially offset by a year-end fund balance or reserves. I talked about that already. Administration has to develop the proposal and wait for the energy performance contract results. So we know, what's on our list. Results of the ex officio board member poll of Woodlands Middle High School students. What do they want to see fixed up in their school? Well, upgrading the track area came out #1. Andrea Stewart Cousins, $500,000 should go towards that. And then behind that was, of course, including replacing, and the track needs to have a rubberized surface, not just asphalt, right, to eliminate shin splints. So we want a good, high quality track. And then fixing and upgrading the tennis courts is a secondary suggestion, and that's where the USTA piece came in. And so we're gathering some aid for that, working on that as well. And we'll see if that ends up in phase 2 or not, or if we can do it sooner, we will. That's it. Do we have other concerns from the floor? Okay, hearing none. It is now 8:56. Thank you all and happy holidays to everyone. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Happy holidays to all.
Happy holidays. Good night.